Reddit users, how did you escape cults or religious groups? Please share your story.
I was raised in a strict religious community that heavily controlled every aspect of our lives. We were not allowed to interact with anyone outside of the group, and were taught that any kind of disobedience or questioning of the leader's authority was a sin that would lead to eternal damnation. I grew up believing that this was normal and accepted it as my reality. As I grew older, I started to feel increasingly uncomfortable with the group's teachings and practices. It was clear to me that the leaders were manipulating and controlling us for their own gain, and I began to question everything I had been taught. However, I knew that expressing these doubts would be dangerous, so I kept them to myself. One day, I met someone who had escaped from a similar religious group, and I was fascinated by their story. They had gone through a lot to break free from the group, but they were now living their life on their own terms. This gave me hope that I could do the same. I started secretly researching ways to leave the group and discovered support groups for people who had left similar groups. I also reached out to the friend I had met earlier, who offered to help me in any way they could. Finally, the day came when I knew I had to leave. With the help of my friend and the support groups, I was able to make a plan to escape. It wasn't easy, and there were many obstacles along the way, but I was determined to be free. After I left, I went through a period of adjustment and healing. I struggled with feelings of guilt and shame, but with the help of therapy and support from loved ones, I was able to move on and start a new life. Today, I'm grateful for the freedom to think and believe for myself and to live my life on my own terms.
I grew up in a religious group that was heavily focused on spiritual purity and perfection. Members were required to follow strict rules and conform to the group's beliefs, and any deviation was seen as a sign of weakness or sin. It was a very controlling environment, and I was taught that the only way to be saved was to follow the group's strict rules and beliefs. It took me years to realize that what I was experiencing was not normal, and I eventually found the courage to leave. It was a difficult process, but with the help of therapy and support from loved ones, I was able to break free and start my own life. Today, I'm living a life that feels authentic to me, and I'm grateful for the journey that brought me here.
I grew up in a strict religious household and was taught to fear the outside world. As I got older, I started questioning some of the beliefs I had been taught and became increasingly disillusioned with the religion. Eventually, I decided that I needed to leave and start my life anew. The process of leaving was difficult and painful. My family and friends from the religious community shunned me, and I was forced to cut ties with everyone I had ever known. I also had to overcome my fear of the outside world and learn how to navigate life on my own. Just as I was starting to find my footing, however, I received a threat from someone associated with the religious community. They warned me that I would face dire consequences if I did not return to the community and beg for forgiveness. I knew I couldn't go back, but I was terrified of what might happen to me. I decided to flee the country and seek asylum elsewhere. It was a risky move, but I felt like it was my only option. I arrived in a new country with nothing but the clothes on my back and the hope for a better future. I applied for asylum and went into hiding while I waited for a response. It was a difficult and isolating time, but I knew that I had made the right decision. Finally, after months of waiting, I received a positive response to my asylum application. I was granted refugee status and given the opportunity to start a new life in a new country. It wasn't easy, but I was finally free to live my life on my own terms, without fear of persecution or punishment.
I was in a cult that was focused on a charismatic leader who claimed to have divine powers. Members were expected to give up their possessions and cut ties with anyone who didn't share the group's beliefs. It was a very controlling environment, and I was taught to fear the outside world. But as I became more involved in the group, I began to see through the leader's manipulations and realized that what I was experiencing was not healthy or normal. It was a difficult process to leave, but with the help of therapy and support from loved ones, I was able to break free and start my own life. Today, I'm grateful to be living a life where I can think and believe for myself.
Growing up as a Jehovah's Witness was a unique experience. I was raised in a strict and rigid environment where I was expected to follow all the rules and regulations of the faith. I wasn't allowed to celebrate holidays, birthdays, or participate in extracurricular activities. My social life was limited to only those within the congregation, and I was encouraged to spend all my free time in the organization's meetings and door-to-door preaching. As I got older, I started to question some of the beliefs and practices of the Jehovah's Witnesses. The more I researched and learned about other religions, the more I realized that the Jehovah's Witnesses were not the only way to live a fulfilling and meaningful life. It was a difficult decision, but I eventually made the choice to leave the organization and find my own path. The process of leaving was complicated and emotionally draining. I had to say goodbye to many people who had been a big part of my life and faced the reality of losing my entire support system. However, I found a new community that welcomed me with open arms and showed me a different way of living. While the beliefs and practices of this new religion were vastly different from those of the Jehovah's Witnesses, I felt like I had finally found a place where I belonged. Looking back on my time as a Jehovah's Witness, I am grateful for the lessons and experiences that it gave me, but I am even more grateful for the freedom to choose my own path and beliefs. Guys, write your thoughts and stories below in the comments, and thank you for watching. See you.